Right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 o'clock, so we'll get started. Thanks very much for joining another of our webinars, lunchtime webinars introducing you, the investors, to one of our investee companies. And today we've got MOBY, MOBY Bikes, and I'll be doing a quick intro to Thomas and to MOBY in a second or two. But just before I did that, I just really wanted to go through a couple of things with you first of all. We've got 3 campaigns live at the moment, as you're probably aware. We've got a campaign from HorsePay, an equine trading platform that enables the trading of horses safely with an escrow system. We've got Digitally, which is a SaaS-based tech piece of technology that helps people do calculations of their gross profit in food businesses. And of course, we've got MOBY, who are going to be presenting today. We've got 2 other campaigns that are very imminent and others that are in the pipeline, of course, as you'd expect. One which will be going live this week, possibly tomorrow, or probably tomorrow, in fact, and another one going live very soon after that as well. So do please keep your ears open for the announcement of that. And again, like most of our companies that we have, all EIS, and which means, of course, an investment from you of say €1,000 would mean 400 euros back in a tax reduction when you come and do your taxes the next time round. So, all very good and exciting stuff. But today's all about MOBY. So I'd like to introduce you to Thomas. So Thomas, if you could please put on your camera and just say hi to everybody. Thanks very much for joining us, Thomas. So today we have got a presentation that Thomas is going to give, and that will be followed by a Q&A session. So at the bottom of the on the Zoom screen, you'll see the Q&A box. So please do open that whenever you get chance and tap in a question, and we'll fire those to Thomas at the end of his presentation. So I'll leave it up to you now, Thomas. So thanks very much indeed. Perhaps you can share your screen and away you go. So good luck, and we'll speak shortly. That's good.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Thomas O'Connell I'm the CEO and founder of MOBY. We're an electric bike sharing business, and we've launched on the platform, obviously, and going quite well at the moment. So I'm just going to talk through the presentation I did before, and I'll try and focus more on the last part because Chris cut me off that time. But here we go. So basically, the problem we're focused on is the gridlock in our cities. So specifically, Dublin is the 14th most congested city in the world, and that's costing our economy about 1.8 billion a year in lost productivity. And we've got pollution that kills 800,000 people a year as well in Europe, and we are getting fined as well for not hitting our carbon emission reduction targets. So the solution, or we believe part of the solution to the problem, is to launch a shared electric bike sharing scheme in the city. And we believe that 1,000 electric bikes could take out about 10,000 car journeys a day, or 3.6 million car journeys a year in the city. The reason for that is that electric bikes are perfect for distances of kind of less than 8 kilometers. And that's 70% of car journeys are actually less than 8 kilometers. And it just so happens that our company won a license for exactly 1,000 electric bikes, and we launched earlier in the year. So how does it work? Basically, you download the MOBY app, enter your credit card details, and then you go to find a bike. You can find a bike in the app by simply just going on the map and seeing where they are, or if you see one on the street as well, you just go up to it, then scan it with the QR code, and that unlocks the bike, and then you're ready to go. The rules in Dublin mean that we have to park at Sheffield stands. That's basically a public bike stand where you'd park your regular bikes. So basically, people can pick them up at any of those stations, I suppose, and then leave them anywhere else in the city where you have a public bike station. They're called Sheffield stands. The market size, this is a McKinsey study. It's projected that micromobility, which is the space we're in, is projected to be worth anywhere between 300 and 500 billion by the year 2030. That's globally. So when we looked at it, and then we kind of said, well, what's the Dublin market worth based on population? That the McKinsey study says that Dublin is worth 140 to 210 million by 2030. The other way of looking at it was to look at the amount of journeys that are taken within the canals, the total public transport journeys, that's 213 million. And we believe that if we captured 15% of those journeys, that it would represent a market of about 100 million. And then the third way of looking at it was to see what Dublin bikes were up to. And they're basically doing about 4 million journeys a year. So we would 3x that, 3x that, because electric bike sharing schemes are traditionally 3 times more popular than regular bike sharing schemes. And that would suggest that, the market opportunity is worth 36 million today. But if you 3x that, it's, again, we arrive at 100 million again. And our projections are showing that we're going to be a 7 million revenue business in 4 years' time. So we were kind of thought we were in quite a good space. Before coronavirus, this was a very relevant business and relevant opportunity. But then, as coronavirus happened, initially, we didn't know what shape we'd be in. But because of coronavirus, it's caused a boom in the bike industry, bike sharing, and consumer bike sales. So you've got a lot of big situation at the moment where actually electric bikes and bikes were sold out for a long time, and electric bikes were sold out as well, and it's hard to get supply. The other good news that happened since then is that obviously the Green Party came into government, and Eamon Ryan is the Minister for Transport, and he's negotiated a budget of 360 million a year to be spent on cycling and walking infrastructure. That's a huge jump from where we were at. We were actually spending around 7 to 10 million a year on average prior to this. So, and it's a well-known kind of fact that when you spend money on infrastructure, it greatly increases cycling in the city. And there's lots of case studies around the world to prove that, a city that had 2% cycling suddenly went to 10% after they invested in the infrastructure. So our competition is, we've got in the city at the moment, we've got Dublin Bikes, which is, I suppose, it's got a limited operating area. They only operate in the canals. They're also, a problem is that they are stations, so you'd sometimes come to a station that's empty or full, and it's quite frustrating. And obviously they're just regular bikes, they're not electric. We have a stationless operator like ourselves called Bleeper Bike. They've been live for about 18 months to 2 years, and they are the same as us. And basically the difference is that they're focusing really on pedal bikes, and we are focusing on electric bikes. So in terms of traction, we were due to launch on the 1st of April, but coronavirus kind of delayed that, I suppose. And we gave our fleet of bikes out to healthcare workers during that time. And as the bikes started coming back in from healthcare workers, we started kind of basically putting them on the streets just to see what would happen. And we were very pleasantly surprised at the amount of, I suppose, revenue we were taking in per bike per day. So before coronavirus, we were hoping to get €5 or €6 a day was what we were hoping for. And we were actually been generating between €7 and €10 a day since launch, and very, very pleasantly surprised. That's really good considering we actually don't have commuters in the city at the moment, or tourists, and tourists would be a large part of the business as well. Some people say, that we benefit because people are avoiding buses and public transport. I think we are to a certain degree, but I don't think our fleet size is big enough that people can actually, rely on MOBY bikes as, that they're going to use MOBY instead of kind of getting the bus every day. We're probably benefiting from a little bit, but probably, I think just the fact that it's an electric bike sharing scheme is what's driving that. And then in terms of pipeline, we've had a lot of requests. We had limited kind of publicity throughout the year, and every time we had lots of different requests from other cities or city councillors asking us, can we kind of try and do something in their city? Limerick, Ballina, Galway, Cork, even Milton Keynes in the UK. A lot of opportunity exists with property developers who want to have dedicated schemes for their residents, basically. And there's talk of it becoming mandatory that new property developments in Dublin will have to have a dedicated bike share scheme for the residents in the future as well, and that may become part of planning permission. And then large corporates, so a lot of employers want to have dedicated schemes for their staff potentially, or business parks, the same thing as well. And we've actually got one client on board for quite a large business park starting in January as well. And then the general public just wanting to see if they can get dedicated electric bikes for themselves to avoid public transport. And we did react to that and have I'm going to talk about later in the appendix about a dedicated electric bike subscription service that we're now offering as well, which is new since the last time we presented. So our team then is obviously myself. I'm the CEO and founder. My background is in wheeled goods. Basically, slight difference in the last company I was designing. We were designing and developing products and selling them all over the world. So we were a consumer goods company. The famous product we were famous for is the Flicker scooter, which was very successful in Ireland. But what's not so well known about the company is that we actually sold it internationally and had we were supplying Toys R Us and Walmart and people like that. Our main business was actually in America, and we had offices all around the world. John is our operations manager. John actually has very passionate about electric rideables. He's part of the e-ride community in Dublin, and that's been useful with recruitment and kind of recruiting passionate people to the company. And John was trained up by our supplier. So our supplier is a company from Czech Republic, and they they had a project manager who was responsible for launching cities, and he trained John up to be our operations manager here locally. Fiacre Kerwin, he's our CFO, part-time CFO. He's previously CFO of PCH and also Aaron. And then Barry Sweeney is our head of marketing, and his background is kind of, he had his own business. He's got an e-commerce background, but also running large marketing departments as well. Like, so he worked in a vast agency and ran a team of 15 people, mainly focused on digital campaigns for the large car brands in Ireland. Now, Chris, this is frozen on me.
Can you unshare and start again, or?
Let me just try. Oh, yeah, so I'll just do. Yeah, okay. So Brian Caulfield, he's I suppose initially an advisor. He's got sweat equity in the business and shareholder. He's now a director. Brian's a well-known VC investor, angel investor. Was the managing partner in Draper Esprit Venture Capital. So very happy to have Brian on board as an advisor, but he's also investing in the current round as well. And then Jamie Heaslip is joining us as well as an investor and also brand ambassador. And we're going to announce that pretty soon as well in the press. That should help with the crowdfund. So he's on board for the next 2 years as a brand ambassador. In terms of financials, how it works basically is the amount of bikes you have in the system. So at the moment we're projecting to have 120 growing to 1,500 bikes after 4 years. And then we look at average journeys per day per bike, and then average revenue per journey. So we had done this financials based on kind of non-coronavirus world. So the average revenue for a journey in Europe is kind of 18 minutes. So 280 per journey was the kind of the sweet spot. So that gives you your revenue per bike per day, and then your total sales. So we're projecting to grow from, at the moment, kind of 1.5 journeys a day up to 5 journeys a day by 2023, and up to 1,500 bikes. So you multiply that by your average revenue, gives you the revenue per bike per day. By total bikes means our total sales should be around 7 million. So, break even is about, it should be at about 2 per day. We're already ahead of that. So we're generating 6 to 10 per day or 7 to 10 per day at the moment. And the other thing our financials doesn't assume is sponsorship income as well. So we've had some conversations with some sponsors, and there is a lot of interest, but we just need to get our feet a bit bigger. We reckon like Dublin Bikes sponsorship is worth about 700,000 euro a year, and that's kind of straight to the bottom line. I'll go into detail a little bit later on the costs on that as well. But just in terms of like where we were projecting kind of 5 uses a day. So Dublin Bikes, this is an analysis done by a data analytics company who can see the fleet utilization of ourselves versus Dublin Bikes. Dublin Bikes is at 8 uses a day. And there's 2 ways of looking at this. I would have said earlier that typically a electric bike sharing scheme is 3 times more popular. And on the on the high level, that means we should be at 24 uses per day if we're projecting 5. But this actual analysis shows as well that we are performing on a relative scale. We're performing 3 times better than Dublin bikes at the moment. So it's stacking up, and that's I was blown away by that, because we're we've got such a small fleet at the moment as well. So it's a good sign. So we were looking to raise up to 2 million for the launch in Dublin. This deck says we had kind of secured 600,000 already in asset finance and debt. That was mainly through myself, and we were looking to raise anywhere between up 250,000 and 1.4 million. The logic there was that the more equity we had, the bigger the fleet could be, and we're at 600, I think almost 600,000 at the moment on the crowdfund. So that means we'll be able to get a lot more bikes, and hopefully the crowdfund will keep going as well. We qualify for EIS, and the valuation of 5.5 pre-money, that was based on basically precedents in the industry. So a lot of companies would have raised at about actually a little bit higher, and they would not have had a license at the time. So I thought it was a good deal for investors. And then in terms of exit, there's it's quite an acquisitive space. Even at the moment, there's some public companies doing roll-up strategies as well. So there's lots of different players in the space who may become our exit. It's maybe an operator who wants to get the Irish Dublin market, or it's a rental car company as well that want to get into the space. So there's been a lot of kind of, obviously car companies are worried about their own future, so they're scurrying to invest in micro-mobility. And then these are valuation precedents that other companies in our space raised at. So you can see, as they scale their valuation, like Bird was the quickest, I think one of the quickest unicorns in history. And then the appendix. So just on this, I did want to, this a little bit of publicity, but I did want to talk about another division that we opened up, which is called Bikes as a Service. And I mentioned it earlier. So basically, it's something that we were thinking about, but we decided to test it. And basically what happens here is a member of the public on the left-hand side, if you as a member of the public wants to have an electric bike, but you don't necessarily want to fork out potentially €2,000 for an electric bike and then worry about maintenance and things like that, and you just want to test it, you can sign up to what we call it kind of the Netflix of electric bikes. You can subscribe to a bike, we'll deliver it to you. And the advantage is that if something goes wrong with the bike, which always happens with electric bikes, we simply swap the bike out the next day, so you don't have any downtime. And you can obviously do it for 1 month, 3 months, 10 months, 1 year, so there's no commitment. And then on the right-hand side, we've done the same thing, but for delivery drivers, which is, we're inundated at the moment, we can't keep up. So delivery drivers, they pay a much higher price. They pay about €200 a month, or €50 a week. And we've kind of, anytime we get bikes in, they're immediately gone, and we've got a waiting list of people waiting on bikes at the moment. It's obviously quite a relevant space with all the food delivery that's going on, but we see it as having a big future as well. So same idea. They can rent the bike off us on a subscription. If something goes wrong, they bring it back, we fix it, or we swap it and they take a different one. But they pay more basically because they use the bike a lot more, so there's a lot more maintenance to be done. So it makes a lot of sense, again, to a delivery driver rather than, buy an electric bike. If there's downtime, if they lose their bike, if the bike has to be repaired, they're waiting potentially a month and they're out of work for a month. So it works out in terms of the cost of maintenance and the cost of your downtime, that it's cheaper to subscribe to a bike rather than actually buy one. And this is a new space that's kind of happening within micromobility, and there's a lot of companies now, raising money in this space as well. There was a company in Germany, in Berlin, who launched literally 3 months ago, and they've gone and done a 15 million Series A already, and they're only 3 months live. So I think it's a hot space as well. So just that these decks kind of explain that's the consumer offering. So you sign up, delivery to your door, any problems, we swap it, and you can cancel anytime. And this kind of analysis here shows, the true cost of ownership versus the cost of a subscription. So per year, a bike is going to cost you kind of 100, if you run it over 3 years, it's actually 155 a month versus 79 a month on subscription when you add up all the costs of downtime, insurance, maintenance, repairs, and actually if your bike gets stolen, you lose you lose everything. And so that, traction on that, we launched earlier in the year. We've got about 60 bikes on subscription at the moment. It's costing us €35 to convert a sale on the public subscription side. On the delivery, we're not doing any marketing. It's being all word of mouth, and we can't keep up with it. So we think there's a big market just to do that again within Dublin. So it's another vertical in the same space that we're in, and another vertical in the space as well is hotel rentals. And we've tested that just with 2 hotels at the moment. It's obviously not worth it because nobody's in the hotels, but we just tested to see what it's like. But it's something we're probably going to expand into next year as well. So there's 5. Because a lot of people ask us what are we going to do about expansion, and I thought I'd address it here. People ask, how many more cities are you going to go to? Our logic is actually more to expand into more verticals. In what's happening in the space is a lot of companies are saying, hey, I want to do street schemes, and we're going to raise a lot of money and scale to lots of cities. Another company is doing the same thing for public electric bike subscriptions, another one for delivery subscriptions. So they're taking one vertical and they're saying, give me lots of money, Mr. Venture Capitalist, and we're going to scale to lots of cities. We think it's better to actually do all 5 verticals within one city and become very, very profitable very quickly, and then look at opportunities later to scale into other cities. So to give an example, Liverpool, there might be a guy there with a street scheme, but he's not doing any of the other businesses, and we might then, potentially acquire somebody like that and then add the rest of the verticals into his business. So that's how we're thinking about expansion at the moment. I think it's quite a waste of money to go scaling street schemes into lots of cities when you don't know if you're going to win a license there or not, and that's been what's happening in the space. And I don't see the logic behind it. So this is our plan, just to kind of answer that question, because I think it has been answered quite a lot, Chris, or asked quite a lot. That's actually it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much indeed, Thomas. That's very insightful. Thanks very much, and hopefully everybody has got a clearer idea of what the business proposition is about now. To those who don't know, this is Fergal. Fergal is one of our co-workers, and he's going to be asking a question every other one, and I'll do the other one. So we'll get started. So Fergal, have you got something lined up there?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Hi, Thomas. Great presentation. Just a question here regarding the parking of the bikes. So just a comment here from an attendee. The bike stands are already very overcrowded. How do you think it will damage the attractiveness of the concept if parking the bike legally becomes an issue? Just around the capacity of bike stands in the city. Yeah,
the council are basically, we pay a permit fee, and the council are investing again, even with the budget from the Green Party or from the department at the moment. They're basically investing in a lot more Sheffield stands in the city to cater for all the demands of everybody. So that's what they're doing. But it's so there's been, I think, 2,000 a year more stands going into the city for the last 3 years.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Next one is, what are your timescales to expand to other cities, and what are the lead times when applying for the licenses in these locations?
That's what I was kind of answering at the moment. Like we'll have a look at a city. If it's coming up for tender, we'll go for it. That's probably a 6-month process. If we win it, great. But we're not going to go on a strategy of trying to go to it like what was happening in Paris. You had 10 operators who were all operating in the same city at the same time, wasting revenue basically. And then Paris turns around and says, well, we're going to give it to 2 people or 3 people. And everybody's wasted a ton of money doing that. So we're probably not going to do that, and we're going to wait and tender. And if we win, that we will move in. If not, the idea is to, like I said, expand into the 5 different verticals, become very profitable, and potentially then buy somebody who already has a license.
Very good. You've mentioned Waterford before, though, as well, haven't you?
Yeah, no, like we're having conversations with Waterford, so they're kind of up for a pilot. So we don't And like Waterford makes sense. There's no like the Irish market is different than, let's say, the rest of Europe, where you've got many more operators. So I suppose what's unique here is that you don't have. We won the license in Dublin, so the other operators are not so interested really in coming to Ireland if you don't have Dublin. So we do have a situation where there'll only be one of two people trying to win a license in Waterford. So we don't mind. The conversation at the moment is about kind of having a pilot down there. So that's a legitimate enough way of expansion in the Irish market, is to kind of ask a city to let's do a pilot, and then you go through the process after that of kind of tendering and things like that. So generally, if you've got the, you know, if you've secured a pilot, it's kind of to your advantage when it comes to the tender.
Excellent. There's one question here regarding the revenue split, Thomas, between the monthly subscriptions and the actual public schemes. What's the current split in revenue per month?
Actually 50-50 at the moment.
And what's your target really in terms of what do you hope to get in the monthly subscription? What's your kind of overall goal there? Your goal obviously is to get to 1,000 bikes, you know, and on the license. What's your kind of target on the subscription model?
I think like we're looking at the Deliveroo market, and we think there's an easy kind of 300 bikes in that market. But if we got pretty aggressive about it, I think we could get to about, you know, 700-800 bikes, which would be that's kind of 120,000 a month in revenue. So I think that's quite a profitable business, because basically, you know, you've got kind of €200 a month per bike coming in, almost, you know, it's not risk, it's almost, it's guaranteed. I think there's a market in Dublin on the public subscription side for potentially 5,000 bikes as well, but we haven't. I mean, we're just a kind of the problem at the moment is we only tested it. That's my gut feeling. We'll know more in a few years' time, but we can only test it. There's very limited supply of bikes, so we only bought in like 30 or 40 at the moment. But yeah, when we ran an ad on Facebook, they were all gone within a week. But that will dry up at some point. But
excellent.
Yeah.
That ties into a question that's come in. It says, what is the evidence about minimum fleet size to provide a robust service, i.e. one person could rely on as part of the commuting experience? I'm not sure how many bikes Dublin Bikes has, but I know that there are sometimes bikes not available at local stations, etc.
There's some studies or other bike share operators that we talk to, and it's kind of the recommended density is one bike per 250 to 300 people in the population is the recommended density of bikes. I think that's about 4,000 to 5,000 bikes in the Dublin market.
Okay, very good. That's
total. So there's an opportunity between ourselves, Dublin Bikes. The total market could be 4,000 to 5,000 bikes.
Great.
Now,
and how did you how did you decide on the make and model of the bike, you know, and the battery solution? What testing did you do, and how did you come to the decision?
So there was like in our space, actually most companies were producing electric scooters, because that's been the boom around the world, and it was actually difficult. We got some samples in from different suppliers in Asia, but the company we went with was a company from the Czech Republic, and the reason we went with them is because they'd been in the bike share business for 10 years already, and then they decided they were going to develop an electric bike, and that particular the bike they had been operating already for, I think, 18 months in some cities, and that was probably the deciding factor, really.
So it was proven in every Very good. So guys, we have loads of questions coming in. So Chris, I'll let you continue, but we will answer them all offline in any case. So don't worry if your question
question here, and it's come in. How do you get to 1,500 bikes? I think this is talking about on your projections, Thomas. How do you get to 1,500 bikes with a license for only 1,000?
Don't tell the council. No, the license is for 1,000 in Dublin City. So we think there's an opportunity for another 500 between the other areas, and that would be like Fingal, Dunleary, and South Dublin County Council as well. So we're already piloting and operating in those areas already. So I think there's a bigger opportunity.
Very cool.
Yeah, just a question on the IP. relating to the app, or is there any IP, Thomas?
No, that's a common question. So it wouldn't be normal for a company to develop its own software. There's a lot of there's a lot of white label kind of software providers out there who provide you with software. If we were to develop it ourselves, it would cost 300,000 or 400,000 euro to develop it, and we wouldn't have the benefit of what these other companies have. So a lot of the white label providers are dealing with hundreds and hundreds of operators, so they're learning and constantly upgrading their software based on all the learnings. So there is merit in the future if you've got a large fleet, and it's obviously cheaper to develop your own one, to develop your own software versus rent it. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at this time. We can do it in the future if we want, but it doesn't make sense yet.
There's a question here. It says that you're an oversubscribed round. Congratulations. But when would you expect to need to raise again, or how long is your runway?
You see, it'll depend on. So, for example, if we won a tender for another city, we probably would have to raise, like a large city, we probably would have to raise. I think for the Dublin market, if we're just focused on doing what we're doing, the business is probably needs about 1 million of equity today and to 1.5, and after that, I'm pretty sure we're bankable. It's almost profitable already. So, I would say if you're just focused on the Dublin market, asset finance is all we need to keep going here, and debt from the banks.
Very good. Just a question on the batteries. You know, how much does it cost to charge the batteries up? Maybe a little bit around the power source. Are you looking to go green, sustainable on that side? And what's the range? How long does it last? The lifetime of the battery. So just a little bit around the batteries.
So it's 1,000 cycles. So that'll depend on then how many times you're actually recharging them. So it's kind of, you're a victim of your success. So if you're getting lots of uses every day, then you're going to have to charge the batteries every day. But that's a good problem. What we do is we send around a fleet, basically guys in cargo bikes, and they go around with their own batteries themselves, and then we see where the bike has a low battery, we basically swap the battery in the bike, and then those batteries are all charged back at head office. We have and whether that energy is green or not depends. Well, at the moment, we have to work with, like, we're based in DCU, and so I think they're switching to Pinergy at the moment. So we've been asking that question. So it should be totally green energy. Yeah, life cycle is 1,000. So about, if you're swapping the battery every day, then those batteries would last 3 years.
And how much is it to charge?
At the moment, we're swapping them every 3 days.
What's the cost to charge from say 0 to full capacity?
Sorry, what's that?
What's the cost to charge it? You know, what do you expect the?
I don't know. It's the cost of electricity. It's tiny cost per battery. So yeah.
Okay. Are you covered insurance-wise if somebody is injured by a battery or any other malfunction of the bike?
Yeah. Product liability or public liability insurance.
We've got loads and loads of questions here, Thomas, but we won't go through them all live on air, but we will, as Fergal said earlier on, send them out to you. So we'll, if you do one, Fergal, and I'll do one, and then we'll wrap it up after that.
The last one here. What role is Brian Caulfield and Jamie Heathcliff going to play in the company, and who would win a bike race between the two of them? Good question.
Brian, basically with Brian, I sit with Brian every Monday morning. We do a 2-hour Zoom call. Brian is, like, if we're going to go on a venture capital journey, Brian's been helping on the funding side, and also if we're going to go on a venture capital journey, Brian has been, very helpful. Even with the current round, like, he's been doing a lot of the work on term sheets and structuring everything and advising on it, because I haven't done that type of business before, and likely we probably will go on a venture capital journey and raise a large round quite soon, and Brian was very helpful there. So he's kind of well networked and kind of well used to negotiating the terms and all that kind of thing. So that's why I brought Brian on board. And then Jamie Easlip is more, you know, he's strictly like brand ambassador. So he's going to be posting every month on his LinkedIn or Twitter about it. Kind of, we're able to use his image on the bike for our ads. If we get a sponsor on board, he'll be part of that. I suppose we have to give him a bike, and so we can use it every day. I'd say Brian actually has a bad hip, so I'd give it to Jamie just for that reason.
Well, that's probably a very good place to stop our questions, actually. Yeah. So, guys, thanks very much indeed. Thomas, thanks very much for a great presentation and some great answers there. Hopefully, all of our investors or people attending, at least today, have got a better insight into what MOBY's about. And as you mentioned earlier on, we're almost at 600,000. That would mean a 200% increase on the actual target around, which would be amazing. So hopefully we can get there and even beyond as well, because I know, Thomas, you've indicated that, listen, you'll let it go even further, so which would be great. So if you are on the fence about investing, please do have a closer look at the campaign. We'd love to get you on board and hopefully investing into the thing. So I think from there, we'll just wrap it up, guys. So we'll send out all those questions to Thomas. Thomas will answer those manually and type a written response up, and we'll get that sent out to anybody who attended the meeting today. And look forward to speaking to you again soon. But one more thing, I did mention earlier on that we've got another campaign about to launch, so keep your eyes and ears out for that. You should be hearing about that very, very soon. So thanks very much, guys, and look forward to speaking to you again soon.